3 days from now, President-elect Bill Clinton will become president in fact. And as he takes office, the nation and the world will be watching to see if he keeps a host of campaign pledges. Candid predictions of what to expect coming up.
This is KYW3 Newsmakers for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. A weekly in-depth look at issues in the news. Now, here is your host, Malcolm Poindexter.
Good morning. If ever the spotlight was on the White House to deliver, it is now, as Bill Clinton prepares to become the nation's 42nd president. His promises range from open abortion counseling to a fine-tuned welfare system. And here to tell us exactly what they think will happen are Bill Batoff, longtime Democratic fundraiser and advisor, Shanin Specter, a lawyer, Republican strategist and political advisor. And with us for the first time as a guest journalist, veteran TV anchor and broadcaster Larry Kane, who begins our discussion.
Great to be here, Malcolm, and
Good
thanks for inviting me on the broadcast. Bill Batoff, I think that going in, Bill Clinton seems to have a problem here, and the words are middle-class tax cut. We heard that over and over again during the campaign, and here we are, several days away from a new administration, and the possibility looms that the deficit will be bigger than ever. How can he fulfill that promise?
Well, I think he will have to raise some taxes. There's no question about that. He never promised not to raise taxes. The question is, where will the tax increase come? It's possible. Could it be a consumptive income tax? Can he cut some benefits from Social Security? There are certain people like myself, possibly you, who should not be receiving a Social Security check. There's people with unearned incomes of $1 million a year, and they're getting $1,100 or $1,200 a month. They're taking that money away from the system that they did pay into. I understand that. They did give that money. However, people should now understand it has to be some sacrifice.
Do you think that's where he's going to go? You think he's going to go for Social Security?
Well, it's one area, but I think there's a lot of other areas he's going to go into also. The corporations will pay heavily.
If he does, though, Bill, what's that going to do to his credibility?
Well, the credibility he dealt with was the middle tax, middle income, middle class increases of taxes. I think that he's going to work out and live up to his word, live up to his campaign pledge. And I think he's going to work in areas of corporations. He's going to help increase small business. And increasing small business, he's going to be able to tax the corporations more. Consumption income tax you could look forward to possibly also.
Shanin, as a Republican, are you looking at all of this with great interest and tongue-in-cheek?
Well, with great interest, certainly. I wouldn't say tongue-in-cheek because we didn't win the White House, and the Democratic Party won the White House. And so we have to look at this with the cool perspective of having not been successful. I think, to get back to Larry's question on the middle-class tax cut, what we're really talking about in a broader sense is the issue of accountability and whether President Clinton is going to do what he said he was going to do when he was elected. He has already begun to back away from what, for many voters, was a cornerstone of why they voted for him, which was the middle-class tax cut. And also, he started to back away from the pledge to reduce the deficit in half in his first 4 years. And if he does that as well, I think that he's going to have problems with a lot of the folks who were impressed by Ross Perot's comments that we ought to get serious about reducing the national debt and the deficit.
You think this deficit issue is now understood by the laymen and women of the country?
I think so.
I mean, we've heard deficit for so many years, and I think now people may be getting a grasp of it, don't you?
Larry, I think so. I think that there's a sense in the country today that the greatest problem facing the nation is the deficit. That has come up in poll after poll, and there is a tremendous amount of concern about it. Now, of course, the converse of that is that people are concerned about having their taxes raised, and where the twain shall meet between them is very hard to tell. It's like the old saying that people all want to go to heaven, they just don't want to do what they have to get there.
Bill, you know, this is a dance here. I mean, this man has walked a tightrope for the last 12 months. He has promised everybody everything, and now he's got to pay the piper politically. How do you get away with that?
Well, I do agree that all eyes will be on Bill Clinton, and especially the press. He doesn't have a lot of room for margin of error. He does have the Democratic Senate majority, a congressional majority, and he's not going to have the same excuses that George Bush had. However, let's get off of the deficit for a moment. The key to curing right now what ails United America are jobs. The economy, getting it moving again. And I think you're going to see him concentrate on that, and you're going to start to see some movement in the economy. That will be the first plus in the Bill Clinton administration, as I say it.
At the expense of Somalia, at the expense of Cuba, at the expense of Russia, at the expense of the old Yugoslavia?
Well, when you say at the expense, you're speaking about the foreign policy, the statement that people feel that he lacks some form of ability to handle foreign policy. I can tell you that won't be the case, Malcolm, because Bill Clinton will have people around him with tremendous experience in foreign policy. Warren Christopher is one. He has dealt in foreign policy for many, many, many years around the Carter administration.
Isn't it a travesty that there was no foreign policy debate in this past election campaign, or little? I mean, here we are in January, faced with this crisis in Somalia, a tremendous rape of Bosnia, what's going on there, the situation in Cuba, simmering South America, the intensifying, escalating tension in the Middle East, and we really don't know where the new president stands on many of these issues. We really don't. We have an idea, just a glimmer, but that's about it. Doesn't that bother you?
Well, I think that it is troublesome, but I think we were dealing with a political reality in the presidential election of a recession that was nationwide, and people's first concern was the economy, was the deficit, was health care, was education, and foreign policy receded in people's interest in terms of the most important issues facing the nation. Now we come to the point in time where it seems that the recession may be behind us and the economy seems to be picking up, and we seem to be having some hot spots around the world that have increased in intensity, such as Yugoslavia. And President Clinton is going to have to demonstrate himself to be resolute. I'm certain, for example, that he's going to be tested very early on by Saddam Hussein in Iraq. There will clearly be a provocation within the first few days and weeks of Clinton's administration that he'll have to deal with forcefully.
Well, on the defense end, you have to remember that during the campaign, during this particular campaign, the Soviet bloc was diffused. There was no longer a viable Cold War. The confrontation wasn't there.
Who did that, Bill? Who was that?
And it's not a matter of who did that. I think it was done by a lot of circumstances. It was done by the reform that was being sought in the Soviet Union itself. You can't give Gorbachev all the credit for that.
Sure.
So, or President Bush. Although President Bush did a good job on foreign policy. I've never denied that, and I still don't. However, I think this is the reason why people did not focus on defense. The fact that they no longer felt a fear about the Cold War existing, especially with the Soviet Union and the Soviet bloc being diffused. I would worry about it more now because I worry about the dispersal of all the nuclear weapons throughout all these satellite countries.
One of Bill Clinton's major promises was to send the Congress a new health care package within 100 days. If you were Bill Clinton's closest advisor, Bill, would you tell him to go through with that or to reassess his priorities?
I would tell him to go through with that simply because health care is something that is absolutely being blown out of proportion in this country. If you have to feel it, I never believed that until my mother had a broken hip recently, and I saw firsthand what could occur.
Chances are you saw the cost of it, too.
I saw the cost of it, but what I'm saying is that if I were not in the position that I'm in financially, what could have happened? What would happen to an individual there who just doesn't have that kind of money? What kind of treatment would they get? And we really do need a new health care program. And I think it's been worked on. I think there are a lot of people on the health committees in the Senate, including many Republicans also, that understand this is something that we do need.
Where would you cut?
Well, it's not a matter of cutting. It's where would I control. I think you need some control in areas where it's been abused. If you just cut out the abuses, you'll have a lot of money thrown into the health care.
How do you do that, though? You have government regulation, you have government price controls.
Well,
what do you do?
How you really do it, there has to be government regulation. There is one now just came out called the Safe Harbor Act. This is one where physicians no longer can receive any form of remuneration from any satellite firm that they might refer patients to, like radiological labs and testing. That's just the beginning. I think it's going to go a lot deeper than that. But I think there have been abuses. And look, there's many great physicians also who don't abuse.
Malcolm, on your question about health care, I think it's essential that President Clinton come forward with a health care plan early in his first 100 days. Regrettably, it is unclear as to what exactly that plan is going to be. During the campaign, early on, he talked about the pay-or-play system. He appeared to drop that late in the campaign in favor of the managed competition concept, which frankly I find to be more acceptable. But yet to this day, we do not know exactly where he's going to be going. And as Bill points out accurately, the healthcare is an extremely complex area. To really achieve any form of comprehensive healthcare reform, it'll have to be on the Senate and House docket very, very early on in his administration.
Well, at least he's going to propose a plan. The Republican administration didn't even talk about this till the campaign. Why did the Republican Party not see this as the burning issue that it was until it was too late?
Larry, you're right about that. It was a failure of the Bush administration in not coming forward with its own health care plan early on. Even during the campaign, there was not a unified health care plan. In the Senate, Senator Chafee, working with others, including my father, have come forward with a health care plan. My father has his own separate health care plan, which is endorsed by the American Nurses Association. But it was a failure of the Republican Party in not addressing health care early on. I think that that's one of the reasons, but there are so many we don't have time in this half-hour show as to why it was that Bush was not successful in getting reelected.
We'll be back right after this brief timeout.
Just imagine how difficult it would be to make ends meet if suddenly every time you spent $1, it was only worth 30 cents. Well, it wouldn't be long before you wouldn't have any dollars left to try and spend. Something just like that is happening to millions of American homeowners every day, right in their own home. And it's happening with this, your fuel bill. Up to 70% of the money that you spend to heat and cool your home is wasted because of your old windows and doors. Every minute of every day of every year, up to 70% of your money, well, you might just as well throw it out the window. If you can afford to keep wasting money like this, well, then your old windows are fine. But if you can't afford it, pick up your phone, call us right now, and learn how Thermal Guard can start saving you money on fuel bills. Over the years, those savings alone can more than pay for the windows. But Thermal Guard replacement windows from Appleby will save you money in other ways, too, because you'll never have to paint, scrape, or repair your windows again. You won't need storm windows either. The new Appleby window system is 5 times more energy efficient than old-fashioned single-pane windows. Call us right now, and we'll mail you free this information about the tremendous difference Appleby insulated replacement windows could be making in your home. Your old windows are the easiest way for a burglar to break into your home. Traditional locks can be easily broken or tampered with. Our unique new one-touch locking system works like a deadbolt to protect your home. Call today, and we'll also include our do-it-yourself window checklist. And finally, I'll see that you get this check good for $50 for every window you replace, should you decide to get Appleby windows for your home. It's free. You just have to call right now. So if you want to keep throwing away money like this, your old windows are fine. But if you'd rather start saving that money, pick up your phone and give Appleby a call today.
With Bill Batoff, Shanin Specter, and Larry Kane, we're discussing what the scenario may be after President-elect Bill Clinton takes office on Wednesday. How long, Bill Batoff, do you think the honeymoon is going to last before people take the president to task over that long laundry list of pledges and promises?
I think this is going to be the shortest honeymoon in history, and this is one of the reasons why I think that President-elect Clinton is going to have to perform. He's going to have to perform early, and I think you're going to see an extremely short honeymoon.
He can't possibly honor all the pledges and promises I saw in print, on the wires, in our office. He can't possibly do that.
Well, another thing about pledges and promises are interpretations of pledges and promises.
But some are very specific.
But a lot what you see in the print is not so specific, Malcolm. A lot of it are what the press felt this might have been, promised.
Well, how about ending restrictions on arts organizations' projects? How about cutting 100,000 federal workers? How about freezing spending on consultants? Are they generalities?
They're not generalities. They are realistic.
Specific?
Specific, and I think he's going to act upon them.
It seems to me like Bob Dole, who suddenly becomes the most powerful Republican in Washington as the Senate Minority Leader, is waiting to have him for lunch. Everything he said indicates I'm going to be his chaperone on Capitol Hill. Do you expect the kind of divisive partisanship that existed in the last several years of the Bush administration between Capitol Hill, even though it's a Democratic Congress, and this White House?
Well, I don't think we're going to see that, Larry. I think, first of all, it is Bob Dole's job to be the loyal opposition, to articulate differences between the Republican Party, both in the Congress and in the country generally, and with the Clinton administration. I think, however, having said that the reality is that there is a great opportunity to end the kind of gridlock we've had in Washington, because we have a new president. We have a president who's been elected with the Democratic Senate and Democratic House. There appears to be at least some degree of mandate for the proposals that he articulated while he was a candidate for president. And so I think that while Senator Dole and his colleagues on Capitol Hill are going to oppose where necessary, I think that there is great opportunity for agreement.
So you're making a face.
I think Senator Dole is going to oppose everywhere he can, and whether it's necessary or not. And I think the most telling statement is the statement after Bill Clinton was elected, when he said that, and I'll quote Senator Dole saying, "I'm going to represent the 57% of the people that did not vote for Governor Clinton." And I think that said it all. And I think you're going to see a lot of negativity coming from Senator Dole.
Well, if I can comment on that, I think that you make an accurate statement about Senator Dole representing those persons that did not vote for Governor Clinton. Of course, that was a majority, a large majority of the American public. But if you look at the first just few days that we have behind us in terms of Clinton's nominees, they have gotten good treatment from the Senate. In fact, some people argue too good a treatment, that the questioning of Clinton's nominees in front of the Senate has not been vigorous enough by the Republicans. And so that I don't think you're going to have automatic negativism from Senator Dole and his colleagues. I think that Senator Dole and his colleagues are going to give the president a chance, and a fair chance. But where the president falls down, where he does not meet his campaign pledges, Malcolm, as you set forth, and I come back to the one that I mentioned at the start of the show, the pledge to cut the deficit in half within his first 4 years, he's going to be accountable for those pledges.
Approval of nominations in that process, Shanin, is considered child's play in comparison to legislation.
What about John Tower?
Legislation and...
what about John Tower?
Yeah, what about him?
Well,
what about John Tower?
He was given a very rough ride by the Democratic-controlled Senate.
John Tower was given a rough ride by the Democratic-controlled Senate and many, many Republican senators, including, I understand, George Bush. Well, I understand that John Tower was never wanted, and that I think you might take a look at why did not George Bush appoint John Tower to anything else? How come? Why didn't he give him the national security post, which didn't need to be confirmed by the Senate? John Tower had a bad reputation among his fellow senators, and I think this is the reason why. It was not a Democratic negative, it was a Senate negative. The Republicans as well voted against John Tower.
And my only point is that we've had nomination processes that have been vigorous, Towers being a good example. And in this instance, the Republicans have not been vigorous, at least to this date, in terms of the nominations by President-elect Clinton. And so I don't think we're going to see automatic negativity.
I agree, and we're thankful for that. We'll take a look at what happens when legislation comes out.
Nice to be in power, isn't it, Bill? Nice to be in power
After 12 years.
You have that look on your face. I haven't seen that look on your face in a long time, you know?
It's wonderful, Harry, after 12 years. It's a long time.
How much accountability do you think the public is going to demand from Bill Clinton?
A lot. I think the reasons they're going to demand a lot, again, is because 57% of the people did not vote for Bill Clinton. And we do have the majority of the Senate, majority of the Congress. There's no room for margin of error for Bill Clinton. I mean, he's in a position now where he has to perform. And I think the public, they sought change, they received change, and now they're going to demand change.
And we have an additional phenomenon, Malcolm, and that is beyond just the Republican Party, beyond Bob Dole or other members of the Senate.
Perot.
Exactly. We have Ross Perot, who clearly wants to get back in the game. I think he wants to run for president again on somebody's ticket, perhaps his own. And he has a movement. He had a lot of supporters, a lot of adherents. He's got a lot of dough, as we all know. And I think we're going to see him trying to hold President Clinton accountable. And however, I wouldn't underestimate President Clinton's ability to articulate the goodness of his own presidency. He demonstrated during the race for president that he was extremely adept at going on national television, on the Larry King Show, on various radio talk shows. He's a master at media relations, and I think he'll more than hold his own in articulating his own vision.
I'm curious about something. When I was in Washington a few weeks ago for Channel 3 to cover the swearing in of the new Congress people, I was very surprised to find out that most Republican freshman congressmen and women got the committee assignments they wanted. All of them. In fact, somebody I know from Texas was immediately appointed to the Appropriations Committee, which is very unusual in a first-term situation. Was there some deal-making going on in Washington?
If there was,
You're making faces now, too. Was there some deal-making going on, or do you know of it? Or?
Well, Bill is answering first.
All I'm saying is I'm not aware of it, but I would not put it past that possibility existing, simply because, you know, we're going to need votes to put together the tremendous legislation that Bill Clinton's going to need to accomplish his campaign pledges, to, you know, fulfill them. Then I think we're going to need the cooperation also of Republicans in Congress and in the Senate. And I think you're going to have to look at the White House congressional lobbyists, the Senate lobbyists, these particular people coming from the White House. You're going to have to look at who they are and the kind of hard work they're going to have to do to accomplish what is necessary in order to get America moving forward.
And if that doesn't happen?
If that doesn't happen, then you're going to see infighting. We'll still probably get a lot approved because, as I said, we do have the majorities. We do have a lot of control. But there'll be divisiveness, and that will create some problems. And I think then that will put back, possibly, maybe we'll need 200 days instead of 100 days to fulfill some of these campaign pledges.
Malcolm, one interesting issue that I think we're going to see fairly rapidly is whether the Democratic Congress, especially the House, which appears to be somewhat more liberal than President Clinton, is going to go along with some of his proposals, for example, on welfare reform or perhaps on capital punishment, and whether in turn President Clinton is going to be pushing some of those proposals as hard as he will be pushing proposals which are more in line with the political philosophy of the majority of the members of the House and the Senate. Of course, he ran on welfare reform, for example, or capital punishment when he was running for president. In fact, it was a regular feature in his TV advertising. But I wonder whether he's going to feel comfortable pushing a more conservative agenda than the political philosophy of members of his own party in the Congress.
It's one thing to be governor of the state of Arkansas, another thing to be the CEO of the United States, Bill Batoff. Do you think Bill Clinton had a clear picture of what he was getting into at the outset?
I think so. I also think that your statement is correct. It's quite a difference, quite a jump from a governor of a small state and into the presidency of the United States. However, you have to look at the campaign. Bill Clinton fought every obstacle. Every obstacle that was known to, any kind of negative that could befall a candidate, he had. He took it, rode with it, and fought it. And I think that's what you look for in a president, strength. And he certainly has that.
I agree. I think that Bill Clinton was probably the finest Democratic nominee for president in terms of raw political ability of any nominee the Democratic Party has had since John Kennedy, perhaps before John Kennedy to Franklin Roosevelt. Enormous political skills. As Bill points out accurately, had tremendous obstacles in his path. It wasn't even a year ago that he had the Jennifer Flowers problem, which is now receded almost entirely.
At Underwood Memorial Hospital, we're always on the move for Gloucester County, with 55,000 emergency room visits last year alone, the most in the Delaware Valley. That's why we're expanding our ER and outpatient facilities. Project 2000 is our master plan, building for tomorrow's healthcare needs.
Which way to maternity?
Project 2000, because we'll go nowhere standing still.
Howdy, folks. Cliff here at IHOP with my latest tune. I wake up in the morning, empty feeling inside. I need me a hearty meal, so I take a short ride. I get a big 2-egg breakfast, and it fills me to the top. And now I'm feeling great thanks to my local IHOP. Sorry, folks, but the song's over. What a great crowd.
The big 2-egg breakfast, now only $3.99. That's $3.99 Monday through Friday at your IHOP now.
Experience the freshness, the service, and the savings.
Savings like tender, juicy sirloin steak, only $1.78 a pound. Master Blend coffee, buy one, get one free with coupon. Cheerios, buy one package, get one free with coupon. And Seal Test ice cream, buy a half gallon, get one free.
Experience the difference. Experience shop and bag.
My daughter Karen was diagnosed with a terminal illness when she was 12. We knew it would be best to care for Karen at home, but without a children's hospice, it was difficult. I knew there were other families that needed support. I wanted to help them. Now, thanks to Community Foundation, there is a children's hospice that does help.
Carol has provided a valuable service to the community, and we're proud to be part of that. Help the Community Foundation to help others help themselves.
In conclusion, Bill Clinton is going to have his work cut out for him in the days ahead, trying to live up to all those promises and pledges he made during the campaign. For their candid opinions this morning, we want to thank Bill Batoff, veteran, Democratic fundraiser, and political advisor on a national level, Shanin Specter, a lawyer, Republican strategist and advisor. Good to have you with us also. And we also want to thank our guest journalist, Larry Kane, well-known television anchor and program host, for being with us for the first time, but not the last.
Absolutely.
Good morning and good health.